The thoughts of architects sometimes fly too close to the sun, and these ambitious people have plans that would have changed entire cities if they had come true. But for better or worse, they remained on the cutting room floor. While some might have considered these huge mega-projects cultural landmarks, others say they were completely insane and doomed from the start. Here are 6 incredible mega-projects that were never built. Number 6. The Dream Airport above New York. In 1946, William Zeckendorf, one of New York's leading real estate developers, put forward an idea that would have changed the city forever. The rooftop airport, which was called New York City's Dream Airport by Life magazine, was to be built along the shores of the Hudson River. This mega project would have cost $3 billion at the time, an absurd amount equal to $45 billion today. This incredible idea would have been the biggest airport project of all time and would stretch across 144 blocks in Midtown Manhattan. Its deck would have been 200 feet or 70 meters above the ground and would have been the size of Central Park. The airport was designed to be able to accommodate 68 flights an hour. Below the airport would be a 10-story building containing waiting areas, restaurants, small businesses, and ticket offices. The airport wasn't just for air travel either. The plans also included piers for ships from the Hudson River, as well as roads and railways beneath the platform. Zeckendorf's reasoning behind the idea was to reduce travel time. Even in the 1940s, New York already was facing major traffic problems, and with all of its airports outside Manhattan, people weren't able to reach their planes in time. If it had been built, this airport would have erased the need for people to travel outside Manhattan to Queens, Flushing, or New Jersey to catch their flights at JFK, LaGuardia, or Newark. It would have changed the city forever. Many of the buildings we see today would not exist. Of course, the airport was never built. While it would have been incredible to see an airport above the ground in the middle of the city, it would have been a nightmare for residents who would have had to deal with not only aircraft noise for every minute of the day because of the sheer number of flights, but also with even more traffic. But even if the plan had been approved, it's a logistical nightmare. Getting the land for the project, clearing up the existing structures within the 144-block radius, and then rebuilding the whole area with an airport on top would probably make it the most ambitious mega project in New York City's history. It was doomed from the start, so even though there was excitement for this unparalleled airport, the ambitious plans remained limited to the newspapers. The inconvenience of traveling to the airports outside the city remains an issue to this day, and Zeckendorf's plans remain alive as well. In 2009, the Manhattan Airport Foundation jokingly proposed for Zeckendorf's plan to be carried out in the most central location possible, Central Park. Number 5. The Hotel Attraction. Once again, this plan was supposed to be carried out in New York. The early 1900s had seen a skyscraper boom in the city between giants like the Singer Building, the Chrysler Building, and the Empire State Building. The New York style of buildings was geometrical and minimalistic, but 2 businessmen from New York wanted something different. They contacted the Spanish architect Antoni Gaudí, who had an architectural style that was completely unique from anything in New York at the time. His iconic buildings, like Casa Mila and Casa Batillo, featured his signature curving shape and attention to detail. Intrigued, Gaudí proposed a grand hotel that would rise to over 360 meters in the sky, eclipsing everything else in the world at the time. The outside of the building would be made of alabaster and glass so it would shine in the sun, while the inside would contain restaurants, theaters, concert halls, and an exhibition theater meant to be over 100 meters in height. In the end, his plans were never finalized. Gaudí had dedicated his life to creating Barcelona's most famous landmark, the Sagrada Familia. Going to New York would mean leaving behind the Sagrada Familia, something Gaudí was not willing to do for a project that was still only in its early stages. Gaudí would work on the Sagrada Familia for a total of 43 years until the end of his life. The project was ultimately abandoned but never forgotten. It was revived in 2003 when some Spanish architects submitted the design for the new World Trade Center design competition. If the hotel attraction stood in Manhattan today, it would certainly be one of the most interesting buildings in the world, and while Gaudí's sketches are still alive today, it seems unlikely that that will ever happen. Number 4. The Ryugyong Hotel of North Korea. Next, we move out of the West and into North Korea, to the capital city of Pyongyang. The The Ryegyong Hotel was named after a historical title for the city it was built in. The name means capital of willows, but now it's more commonly known as the Hotel of Doom or the Cursed Hotel. This unfinished megaproject holds a special place in this list. Its construction had been started but was never seen to the end. To this day, it holds the record of being the world's largest unoccupied building. The construction of this empty, pyramidal tower began in 1987 for the country's 1992 World Festival of Youth and Students. The North Korean government wanted to make it a symbol that would reflect the government's power and capabilities, and also a show of their superiority over South Korea. At 985 feet tall, it would become the largest tower in the nation. The building is 1,083 feet tall and has 105 stories and 3,000 rooms. While the structure reached its planned height in 1992, when it wasn't able to be completed in time for the festival, it was completely abandoned by the government, and it stood windowless and hollow for another 16 years. Billions of dollars have been wasted on this building, but the inside remains unfinished and unusable. Until now, 35 years later, it has not welcomed even a single guest. The hotel is often removed from official photographs of the city. If you're liking this video so far, make sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Also hit the bell icon to turn on notifications for any upcoming videos we have. Number 3. America's tallest failed skyscraper. Next, we go back to America, to Chicago, widely considered to be the birthplace of skyscrapers. Next up on this list is the Chicago Spire. The Spire is the most modern project on this list, having been proposed only a few years ago in 2005. It was designed by another famous Spanish architect named Santiago Calatrava, who has the achievement of designing many other incredible projects like the World Trade Center Transportation Hub and Sweden's Turning Torso. It was taken over by Garrett Kelleher from the Shelburne Corporation for construction and was considered a very realistic project. The Chicago Spire was to become the tallest building in the country, and it would have kept that record to this day if it had been built. The plans for the tower included a slender curved design that would stretch 610 meters into the sky. Because of this slender design, its foundations had to be very deep. The construction began in 2007 when a 22-meter hole was dug into the ground and foundations were laid down. But this was where the progress stopped. America was facing a recession at the time, and like many other companies, the major financier of the project, the Anglo-Irish Bank, was facing bankruptcy. The investments were pulled out, and this started a chain of several lawsuits against the project developer, which was forced to stop construction. In 2013, Shelburne Corporation underwent a bankruptcy reorganization plan, and this incredible project that could have become the tallest building in America only left a hole in the ground. 3 years later, the company Related Midwest took over the site, and after they proposed several new plans, the Chicago City Council approved an updated design for the project containing 2 staircase-like towers. Unfortunately, it seems the Chicago Spire is another project that will never see the light of day. However, while this one was relatively modern, the next item on the list takes us all the way back to World War II. Number 2. The largest dome in the world, the Volkshalle. Don't go anywhere because this next one is sure to be a shocker. The Volkshalle, or the Great Hall, was supposed to be the most important building in the New World led by Nazi Germany. The architect Albert Speer, who had also served as Hitler's Minister of Armaments and War Production, drew up the plans for the new city of Germania. He wanted to reorganize Berlin, and at the north end, standing at the head of the city, was supposed to be the Great Hall. Hitler himself made the sketches for this enormous dome structure in 1925, after being inspired by the Pantheon in Rome, which he visited in the 1920s. But he wanted to build something that was a lot bigger and a lot more impressive. The dome would rise to a height of 290 meters and would have been 250 meters wide, making it the biggest building on the continent. The interior of the hall was to be so large it could fit 180,000 people at once. It was bigger than even Michelangelo's dome at St. Peter's. Like the Ryegyong Hotel, this incredible megaproject was supposed to be a show of the power of Hitler's empire. Some argue that the hall was simply too massive to have been built and would have collapsed from its own weight. However, with the use of steel and lightweight concrete at carefully chosen places, this incredible megaproject could very well be a possibility. If done so, this dome would have been so massive that it is theorized it could even form its own clouds. This is another one of the projects that were very likely to have been able to be built had it not been for circumstances. But before anything from the plans of Germania could come to life, the Great Hall, along with everything else, came crashing down with the defeat in 1945. Barely anything remains of these plans today. Number 1. The sphere version of the Pyramids of Giza. For our last on the list, we go further back in time to the 18th century when the French artist Étienne Louis Boulle, after designing a Herculean unbuilt cathedral in Paris, decided to create something to honor the great scientist and mathematician Sir Isaac Newton. Boulle wanted to build what was the world's first domed planetarium as an homage to Newton's contributions to the field of physics. This 150-meter-high cenotaph would even surpass the Great Pyramid of Giza. Boulle's design was for a gigantic stone sphere on a base lined with cypress trees. Entered from below, the interior of the spherical structure was to be dotted with tiny holes reflecting the positions of the constellations and the planets. Using the light would pass through the holes, which would light up to create a map of the sky. During the night, a spherical lamp would light up the structure and act in place of the sun for the universe created by the arrangement of holes. However, Boulle was aware that his project would never see completion. It was simply too advanced for the time. But much like many of the other items on this list, the idea lives on. While the cenotaph remains unbuilt, the idea would go on to be implemented in the planetariums that we see today. That is all for today's video. Which one of these unbuilt projects impressed you the most, and which one would you like to see become a reality? Let us know in the comments, and we'll see you in the next one.